Welcome to another edition of At the Wicket. I'm your host, Cavalli Arnold. On the back of West Indies qualification to the Super 8 of the ICC Men's T20 World Cup. Exciting times for the Windies fans. We are joined now by three excited Windies fans. I think I see Reza Abazali here. We have Joseph Reds Perriera and former West Indies player Jerome Taylor. Jerome, I'm gonna touch on Azari Joseph's exploit subsequently, but let's just get a reaction of from all of you. Starting with Reza on that performance last night and getting into the Super 8, which was so important.
Yes, thanks so much, Cavalli, for having me here live on At the Wicket. Yes, as a West Indian fan, I'm happy that they have qualified for the Super 8, but I'm not necessarily happy about the manner in which they achieved it. Because here, West Indies are going to, of course, go down deeper into bigger matches coming up. And although that 149 was enough, West Indies were 113, what was it, 113 for 9 in the 18th over. And one man stood up, thankfully. Sherfane Rutherford, 68 in 39 balls. But you know what? West Indies, and this is my concern here, West Indies were 23 for 4 after the power play. Charles gone for Doc. Pooran gone for 17, bo in 12 balls. Chase gone for Doc in 2 balls. And then you had, Powell gone for 1 in 5 balls. The top order is not standing up, and that is my major concern.
Yeah, I feel your pain. I feel your
Yes.
pain, but I'm happy for the win. Let's
Yes.
hear what Reza would say about West Indies winning and not Reza, Reds winning and
Yes.
getting into the Super 8. Before we dissect it a little bit more with you, Reza.
Okay.
Well, I would think that Darren Sami and his coaching staff must be extremely worried about the batting. The information you got just now from my colleague in Trinidad speaks for itself. Um, Rutherford saved the day for the West Indies because had we lost that, we would have had to able to beat Afghanistan here in St. Lucia. If we didn't do that, we were out like South. So we owe a great deal of gratitude and appreciation and respect for Rutherford because of all the top order batsmen. Although Hussain, Shepherd, and Moti supported him in very important partnerships, not large, but enough to get us to 149. Rutherford was the only one who played with common sense, who didn't panic, who didn't try to go as hard as some of the top order batsmen. And this must be worrying to Darren Sami as we go forward. Yes, it's a win, but it was a kind of almost a weak win. And conditions weren't great. One must say that it was a bowler-friendly pitch. A bowler-friendly pitch kept low. Batting wasn't easy,
Correct.
but a lot of the dismissals had nothing. Well, maybe Shepherd. Shepherd went to pull a ball that hardly got midway up past his ankle, but the rest gave their wickets away, and Pooran was the biggest culprit.
Yeah, I know we I guess because of expectation we feel some type of way about West Indies and the manner in which they won the game. But Jerome, as a former player, um, what is it like, when you're in that dressing room, not playing at your best, but looking at, oh, we got the result, we got into the Super 8. Is it like that? You got the result, you get into the Super 8, and we'll fix that as we go along, or is it some sort of concern? What give me that along with your reaction to how you felt about that victory last night.
Well, yes. As a player, in the dressing room or outside of the dressing room, it is a cause for concern. Knowingly that for our 50 over World Cup, now we're here on the stage again where we have won this twice under the leadership of Darren Sammy. He's a part of this group, the head coach of the group. I think there room for improvement. It can be fixed, not to get too edgy at the moment. It is early stage, and I do think that we can fix things. It is a true test of character, and the fact that you would find individual brilliance that would bring us across the line if we do not get a collective team effort, which we know may never happen at any given time. Some people are not gonna stand up on the day, but you will have players who people do not expect to come forward with that brilliant sort of performance. And it goes to show that Rutherford did it for us, and with the ball in hand, Moti did it. The bowlers, they were working, and as you look at World Cup now, I can say that it seems to be a bowler-friendly World Cup. I don't know why it is happening like that, but it is happening. And I would go back to a point where Reds alluded to the fact that it was a weak win. A win is a win, yes, and if you win in a good way or a bad way, you have to address the fact that your work needs to be done. Now, a weak win over a strong New Zealand, I don't know how to put that. So I would say that New Zealand was weaker on the day.
Yeah.
And a traditional team like New Zealand, West Indies playing, and they could defend 150 runs. I would give credit to West Indies. Even though we as West Indians, we're going to mark our players hard because we know what is expected of them. And I think they themselves know that there's a high expectation on them as well. So I would not get to the point where we think we have to get edgy just yet. We are getting to the business then of the cricket, and I think
I think
that look sort of situation, and we have to just come to the fore.
Yeah, and for the viewers, I think everyone would know what happened in the game, but we will lauding praise on Sherfane Rutherford because he was the star of the show. With his 68 from 59 deliveries, and the bulk of the runs came in the last 2 overs when he really took to Mitchell Starner and Daryl Mitchell. When you look at where West Indies were, West Indies are coming from a place, as Reza said earlier, of 30 for 5 just outside the power play. And then when we look at, even after that, we lost some wickets. But, the bowlers came out, fed off that confidence from Rutherford's knock. Joseph with 4 for 19 off his 4 overs, and Gudakesh Moti, and that's Azar Joseph, that is, because there are 2 Josephs in the team. And Gudakesh Moti with 3 for 25, dismissing New Zealand for 136 for 9, winning by 13 runs. So it is brilliant in their performance. Let's just look at, and we commend West Indies for winning and getting to the Super 8. That's good. But let's just dissect the manner in which they played. You guys mentioned a lot of it just now. But what can be done differently in terms of better playing? Reza, you were straight off the bat saying you were a little bit disappointed in the performance.
Yes.
Let's start with you in what can be done in remedying the performance.
Yes, yes, a good question, and I was expecting something like that. Listen, Williamson won a good toss and put West Indies into bat. The pitch variable bounce. I mean, top and low, but the approach, I mean, the first ball, and I mean, Johnson Charles swished the first ball he faced. And then I think it was the first over, he got an inside edge, and that was the end of Johnson Charles. I mean, we got to take this ball by ball, assess the conditions as they should be, I mean, feel out how the pitch is playing. You're going for these big shots, and I mean to say, injudicious shots so early in the power play. And I mean, people talking about Pooran's approach also. And bam, 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 17 runs in 12 balls, and then he goes for a big shot. And the keeper did an excellent job catching him. But they have to show some sort of discipline. This pitch, or the pitches, I mean, that has been laid wherever in the US and the Caribbean right now. I think one of you, I mean, made the point that it's probably more bowler friendly, which is fine, because in the IPL, batsmen and teams hitting 250 runs every innings. So the approach, it has to be methodical, and that's my pain I'm feeling. It's not methodical.
Yeah, and Reza and Reds, and let's just look at that coming up there on the screen. Charles, Reza spoke about assessing, but we've seen it 3 games now. I don't know, maybe Charles doesn't have it in his game to assess the conditions well. Now we have someone like Shea Hope on the bench. Should Charles be dropped for Shea Hope for the next game?
Well, I think that is fairly straightforward. If you have to judge people on cricket terms, Charles has always been that kind of a player. He's always, crossed the basic batting fundamentals. He's gotten away with it on some occasions, but his ratio of doing well for the West Indies is probably 1 in every 10 knocks. I mean, I haven't done research in it, but it's that kind of inconsistency. I would like to see Hope come in and open the innings with King. That's one change. I certainly would like to see Sharma Joseph come in as we're playing in St. Lucia. A track that Jerome would have loved to bowl on. Good carry to the keeper. You can get 145 or 150 clicks if your rhythm is good. Those are 2 changes. Now, what are you going to do about Chase? Are you going to keep Chase? Are you going to keep Shepherd? Those are some of the decisions they've got to make. I don't know what are the thoughts of my colleagues on the changes.
Yeah, so we would say that Charles Hope straight up is a no-brainer. But let's look at the bowling side of it now, Jerome. As a bowler yourself, we saw the exploit of Azhar Joseph last night, Gudakesh Moti, Akil Hussain consistently doing well. But Reds is looking at a specialist bowler coming in, possibly in Shamar Joseph, in conditions that maybe will favor him. So what's your take on that? Or should we leave the bowling as is, given its clicking?
Well, let me say to you, if you have a winning formula, and I know that sometimes we do choose horses for courses, right? So I would part and parcel be okay with what Reg is saying, but knowing the captain, knowing the coach as a tactician and as a strong leader, and now given the role as a coach, I think they would sit down and discuss moving forward. And I am here to back whatever decision they would come up to, because I was once in the dressing room, and I know how it gets at times when changes. People are looking on and people are analyzing, right? But as a player, and if you give a certain player the confidence to play, they will play. The brand of cricket that West Indies wants to play, they would have to pay attention to that and then fine-tune that sort of cricket moving forward. I strongly believe that they are trying to get the right players in the right place, the right ingredient moving forward. Yes, we are now qualifying for the Super 8, and you have people who you'd want to have a look at, because going to the business end of the cricket, you'd have to come up with the right formula. You understand? You have to choose the right. So I am one of those who have high regards for Azari Joseph as, I would say, the leader of the bowling pack presently. But yet still, our death bowling, we have to look deeply into that.
So would you bring,
we have to look at how we go about it,
or just look to fine tune some things in the team in terms of strategy with who is already there?
I think it's more fine tuning. No doubt there's work to be done, but it cannot be a start over. So it must have to be a fine tuning with who we have there to move forward. So we have to look at the bench and say, okay, who we're gonna have a look at, who we think that we might need to have a sit out, and whatever the case may be. But looking at the team, I have all the belief that they can get to the finals and win Cricket World Cup.
Yeah, with what is there. So if Darren Sammy fine-tune things, then we could be looking at West Indies just playing a little bit more clinical and with the team that's there and getting the results. It's good to see all of that. But looking ahead to the Super 8s, they will be playing oppositions like they played New Zealand. They will be playing Afghanistan in the next game. These are tougher tests than the previous games, so they want to get things right. I don't know if there are a lot that can be changed. I think that if we get that dot ball percentage down, I've said that before, I think things will be a little bit better. I think in terms of strategy, yes, I think there are things that we need to look at, and if we can get that dot ball percentage down, it will look better, because the bowling is doing well despite not having maybe the names that we think should be there. I don't know what you think, Reds, about that in terms of the strategy and getting the dot ball percentage down and playing more, and that will help us to play the sensible cricket that we're talking about going into the Super 8s. Red?
Oh yeah, sorry, I thought it would be my colleague from Trinidad coming in.
Go Reds, you go first.
I think that I expect on cricket, on the basis of cricket, hope should come in place of Charles.
Yeah.
Just to follow up the point made by our former West Indies fast bowler, who might claim that he's an all-rounder because he's got a test 100. We must get that.
New Zealand.
Yeah, New Zealand too.
Yeah.
I want to say to Jerome, yes, we can fix this, but the only way we can fix this is if we have a total different attitude towards the responsibility of the top order. Unless we have that kind of attitude, which was highly demonstrated by Rutherford, we are going to fail again and hope that somebody come in the middle order and rescue us. We cannot be so attacking. We cannot be so indisciplined in our stroke play. We have to make sure we don't lose a lot of wickets in the power play. You can always pick up runs even if you're a little behind in the power play, but do not lose a great deal of wickets. Just some information on the pitch here in St. Lucia. I spoke to Ken Crafton. The entire pitch was not relayed. Ken Crafton told me 2 days ago that he took off a half inch from the top only. He took off a half inch, scraped it off, redressed it, and he feels it's going to be the same pitch that we all know. Now, if that is going to be so, should we bring in Shamar Joseph?
Yeah, I think that is the question. And as we get closer to the game, we will look at that in our preview. I want to ask 3 questions as we close out the West Indies segment as we look towards the US. I'll start with you, Reza, in asking about let's just look at, in your opinion, which player has lived up to expectation and what hasn't lived up to expectation, hasn't lived up to expectation, and what can they do to turn it around? Don't tell me Johnson Child, because we are looking to get him out of the team. We're all advocating for that. So which player has not lived up to expectation for you, and what can they do to turn things around?
Oh my gosh! Well, you know, I might be hit for 6 with this, and I mean, Nicholas Pooran is I mean, we know of his exploits in the IPL and other T20 leagues in the world, and he's batting at number 3. And if he's batting at number 3, you have an early wicket. I mean, exiting or whatever. He's almost facing 18 overs. Right, he has much time to solidify his position in the middle and batting at number 3. Take his time and accumulate the runs, and we know he can hit balls. You know, powerful shots all around the wicket, almost what you call a 360 player. Like Surya Kumar, Yadav, and them fellas. But I think Nicholas, he got a wonderful round of applause last night. He was playing on his home ground. Let me tell you something, guys. When Pooran was 16, I had the opportunity to lecture Pooran on the history of West Indian cricket. And when I met Pooran at the age of 16 at the National Cricket Academy, I was back in 2015, 2016, as I mentioned. You could see Pooran, he was so energetic. He wanted to succeed. And then, of course, he had this car accident a few years ago. I think it was 2015 that he was, laid up for months. So Pooran knows what life he came from. And I would like him, the essential and key part of this top order that he needs to, just reassess his own mind and condition and, build an innings. That's all I'm asking from him.
Okay. All right. So Nicholas Pooran has to live up to Reza's expectation and back pages of the paper in Trinidad tomorrow. Now, Reds, I must ask you, I leave Jerome for last but Reds, I must ask you about, from your vantage point, which non-performing player has the potential to be a game changer in the Super 8?
You mean apart from Reds? Is it Mr. Reds for answering?
Yes, Reds here.
Yeah.
The non-performing player currently, has the potential to be that game changer in the Super 8. Wonder if we'll get to remember the name again for the West Indies.
Well, I would think, you can start with Pooran, as a game changer. But the only way he's going to be a game changer is if he puts on his thinking cap. You can only make runs if you stay in the middle. You can't get 17 off of 12 and then walk off. That's not going to help the West Indies. I think that our all-rounders have got the capability of playing a dual role, which is probably very healthy for us. But the batting, the top of the batting, has got to be fixed. I have a lot of faith in Hope If Hope comes in, we have a stronger batting lineup, and he has influence on the guy who's a non-striker because he works the ball around. He's not a boundary hitter like some of the other players. He can't hit the ball like King, but he can bat. He can play normal cricket shots, and I would like to see that addition at the top of the order. It will influence the entire order.
Yeah. All right. We'll go to my fellow countryman, but if I should answer my own question, I look to my own countryman in the captain Robman Powell in having those sort of performances, to have that game-changing performances in the Super 8. I was disappointed last night. Now, Jerome, I must ask you about from a player's perspective, which player's performance has surprised you the most this tournament, and why is it Azari Joseph's 4 wickets last night?
Like I said, I've watched Azari over the years, and I'm being a fast bowler.
I'm not answering your question to say it must be Azari, but go ahead.
Yeah, I have watched him over the years, and I do admire him as a player. But as far as Pooran is concerned, I know him as a big game changer. Robman Powell, who I know can get the ball across the rope. They both can change the game at any given time. I've played with Johnson Charles and I've seen his work. I am of the belief that they will get to that point. It just needs a little bit more thought process, so to speak. But like I said before, if the brand of cricket that we are looking to play is to impose ourselves, and once we are imposing ourselves, then we have to maximize our power plays. And by doing so, we're going to lose wickets. Once we think we have players in the hut that can repair the damage that happened up front, then I think as a team, we are willing to take that. But I can feel the pain of the West Indian public, my fellow analysts here were analyzing, and I could get where they're coming from. But as a player, I would have to come inside the dressing room. I would have to come outside of the dressing room to speak, because I once was there and I understand what it is like being in a dressing room, having the confidence in a bunch of players who we think can get the job done, but it's not happening just yet. Coming off 3 wins, I can tell you, I'll take it any day, however it comes.
Yeah.
But we always get together, we regroup. Even though we got a win, what can we improve on? And I can assure you that this conversation is happening in the dressing room as I speak. So these big name players who are not living up to the expectation just yet, I can assure you that they're going to come to the party, because they know what time of day it is, they know what is expected of them, and they know what they can do.
All right. There you have it, viewers. A lot is expected of the West Indies come the Super 8, but before they get to the Super 8, they have that game against Afghanistan. And Afghanistan is a real tough team to go up against. We saw what they did to New Zealand, run riot with New Zealand. The West Indies would not want to take them for granted going in that game. Papua New Guinea is up against it with them also. So West Indies will be looking on and saying, all right, let's counter the spin of Afghanistan as we look to get to the Super 8. All right, we will now shift our focus to the US. So thank you guys for joining us. I don't know if any of you guys will be for the US segment. We'll be shifting our focus to the US as they look to take on is it here? They played against India yesterday, and that was some game where they lost, and they're looking for another tomorrow and see if they can have that sort of performance as when they take on Ireland in the morning. So thanks guys for joining us. Any of you sticking around for the US segment?
Well, I think you got somebody, a U.S. correspondent coming in, and I think
Yes.
that it's best for the show if he took my place, and I think he's much stronger in that area than I am
Yes.
on the U.S. team. Okay.
Yes. Yes. So he's coming in. He will be coming in for as we look about US. But before we just get a quick word from you guys. Yeah, just get a quick word from you guys. How impressed are you with the US and their performance so far in the tournament?
Well, they're a very confident bunch, and the opening game against Canada certainly reinforced that. They've got talent. They've got talent. I think more in the batting department than the bowling. I don't believe that Ali Khan has yet come to the party, so to speak, because he hasn't performed as expected. He hasn't performed as we've seen him perform for Trinidad. But it would be great for U.S. cricket if they qualify. Very great for U.S. cricket.
Yeah,
And
I thought,
yeah, where's that?
if I may add, yeah, I thought that game with USA and India, if you remember, it was tight, at one stage where India needed, I think, 35 and 30 balls. And the umpires penalized the USA 5 runs because apparently Jones was taking too much time to spin the last over into the following over. You just need 60 seconds to change overs. And what I was reading, it was about twice he was warned, and the third time they penalized him. And that 30 from 30 relaxed the pressure. And Yadav and I think is Ayub his name, I think, just took their time and just went through with the victory rather easily. But but as Mr. Red said, they have been quite impressive, and it's a big, of course, fillip for cricket in the United States. I'm reading about big leagues, 6 big leagues in the US, big finance and all that stuff spreading, wherever and however. So if they do get through, which as you mentioned, I think on top of the year, that the match will be rained out against Ireland, and they're into the Super 8, which is, fantastic, not only for cricket, generally, but, for the whole world itself in terms of, USA going to the Super 8. And this is their first presence, in the World Cup. And like Canada and Uganda. So it's a positive step for world cricket, no doubt.
Yeah, and I wouldn't ask the same question to my fellow fast bowler, to my fellow countryman. I'm not a fellow fast bowler, but I must ask you about Nechavalka and Ali Khan, but especially Nechavalka and his impact. Getting the scalp of Rohit and Virat Kohli in that game. Big scalps, and that super over from him. How impressed are you of his bowling and just the bowling in on that sort of pitch? I know the pitch was offering assistance, but the way they bowled on it to outplay teams.
Well, yeah. First, let me echo what Reds had said and about being a confident bunch. I think on the world stage, there's no better place to really give a good account of yourself. And if not most people, except the players of the US and the coaching staff, were expecting US to be this far in the competition. So they're actually looking to qualify for the Super 8. I think most people would think, okay, they would be long gone from the get-go. And I cannot say how elated I am to see that the US could be a part of something that they would think would be unreal to qualify for the Super 8. But I have known Ali Khan for a bit. I have watched him play even the CPL and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
And he seems to be a handy player who understands rules and try to give off his best every time given the opportunity. But that super over of the lefty, Chavalka, I was on the sofa watching, and I cannot say how pleased I am to watch him, who they have said he came to the US to study and just take a liking for cricket. And look, we'll never know what our places that cricket can take us. Now, it's a sport that I've loved since I've been a kid, and I would just encourage them to love it and give it the best, and to give it the best shot. I know that US are thinking that they're in a good place, and if they're in a good place with a good frame of mind, turning up on the day to play cricket, they can do good things. The game against India, I'm very much impressed with it. India, USA, a lot of people think that USA will be blown away, and it was never so. So there are good things that is happening for US, and it can only get better from here, I would think.
Yeah, I guess we will see. Maybe we'll one day see Jerome Taylor picking up a coaching stint, teaching some of these young US bowlers to bowl so well and using Nechavalka as an index to say, look at what he did, getting the scalp of Virat Kohli and Rohit Sharma, and this is what you guys can do. Maybe I'm just looking too far into the crystal ball here. But joining us, Lenny, our US correspondent Lenny White, a USA analyst. You must have been impressed with USA's performance despite going down by 7 wickets to India. Nechavalka early impact with the ball, getting Rohit Sharma, Virat Kohli, as I said, cheaply. But Sky, Surya Kumar Yadav, his 31 and Shivam Dubey 50, really stabilized things. Rallied India from 39 for 3 to 111 for 3 in winning the game. Because US earlier posted 110 for 8. The batting lineup, and I must say they were without their captain, Manang Patel, who had a little shoulder niggle sit out the game. They said he would be fine for the next game, but they just didn't want to take chances. And I think maybe they also looked at things and said, let's not risk him in this game, given that we may need him more against Ireland, which they saw they might have a better chance of winning. And they went out there, played good cricket despite not winning, and they're looking ahead to Ireland. But how impressed were you of their performance despite not winning, Lenny?
Well, first of all, I gotta say great afternoon to all the viewers around the world. I'm super impressed with the United States team, the way that they handled themselves in the first 2 games. They had nothing to lose in terms of the last game against India that they played yesterday. They could have handled themselves a little bit better, but they were missing a couple of key players in terms of Manak Patel, the captain, and I do think that in terms of the pace attack, they wanted someone more of a wicket taker. I think Nechavalka is a wonderful fast bowler, very beautiful variation of pace, but end of the day, Jesse Singh is a great bowler as well. Ali Khan, great, but I would love to see a fast bowler such as Drysdale in the attack for US instead of having Jesse Singh in the attack. Not to discredit Jesse Singh for what he has done for US throughout the years, but I think the likes of Drysdale, he would bring a lot more of experience into the fast bowling unit for the US team, and a lot more pace, a lot more variation, and it could cause a lot of damage for the US team if he's given the opportunity.
Yeah, they are steering down Super 8 qualification. Just Ireland to get over. Ireland can be a tough team. They've not had the sort of World Cup that they would have wanted so far. And also they'll be playing in a place where you might see rain. They just need a point to go through. So if rain comes tomorrow, then they should be fine. But they would want to go in and get good performance and win against Ireland. Ireland can be a tough team if they get it right. They have some quality players. If they get it right, they might be in some problems. What's your take on their possible approach to Ireland?
Well, absolutely. We've known what the weather can bring in Florida. We know that it's a hit or miss. It will forecast to say rain in another 5 hours after. It's nothing but beautiful sunshine and beachy weather. But the way that I've seen the last couple of days, I don't think that there's going to be a ball bowl in Fort Lauderdale. Never to say the less. It can happen. But I do see them coming out on top. We know that the Ireland team, they have nothing but great talent in their team. And we've seen it over the last 4, 5, 6, 7 years. Oh, tremendous they can be. I watched them against the USA about 2 years ago, and they were very demolishing in terms of playing in US style. And they've got the confidence, they've got the players in the team, the unit, the dressing room to deliver that job. But from my perspective, I don't see a game playing tomorrow in Fort Lauderdale.
So here we have a weather map. Lenny, I know you are a lot of things. Englishman, I know you have that brilliant English accent. I didn't know you were a meteorologist as well. Let's see what happened. What happened tomorrow? I can't look so deep into my crystal ball. I don't have a meteorology crystal ball. But if they should get to that Super 8, it would be massive for US and their cricket. But I don't know how well Jerome and Reza, I don't know how well you guys know the Ireland team, but I must say there are some really good players in the Ireland team that will be looking to have a sort of good game against the US, because they've not had the best of World Cup so far. You know, Paul Sterling, we know what he brings. You know, he's top jaw. You know, Josh Little had an IPL contract. Harry Tector, Logan Tucker. These sort of guys can really perform. Dockrell even and Ben White and all of these guys. Curtis Comfort look a really good player as well. In that middle order, he will give you something with the ball. And Andy Balburney, experienced player, been around. So this is a strong team if they get things right. US have been getting things right. What do you think about these players? If they get things right, they really could scare the US tomorrow.
Well,
Jerome?
first, let me say I know of Paul Sterling. He can be very destructive, but he's only one player. I played against Ireland before, and they gave us a good run. Very, very decent team. But I know with US have a game at hand, thinking okay in front of the home crowd, they have all to play for. I think they're gonna come out tomorrow, all guns blazing. I think they want to make history. You know, they want to qualify. You could watch the way they go about winning the first game. You could see the camaraderie. You could see the joy that they bring to the country, to the people of the US. So they know that they have a lot at stake, and I can say that they would go in the dressing room or wherever they have to go and meet and just sit and look to come up with plans of how can we get across the line tomorrow, barring the weather. I mean, the weather would play its part. That's the heavens, and nobody have control over that. So you cannot sit around thinking, okay, we might not get a play. You know, once the fat lady sings and they said, look, let's play, it's game on. So I think the US have a pretty good chance of getting across the line here. But I am not hoping that Ireland would come here to just lay down and play dead for the US to walk over them. So it's going to be a good contest, if you ask me.
Once the holes.
Yeah, Reza, I want to ask you about we saw Aaron Jones in the last game, not having the performance that he had in the previous game, but we saw other players, stepped up a little bit. But Aaron Jones, he looks like a class player. I guess he'd want to go back to putting his name back on the lips of all the everyone in the cricketing world tomorrow against Ireland. How impressed are you with his performance so far as the batter that is
Yes,
setting things alight?
yeah, Aaron Jones, if I'm reading it correctly, born in the USA of Bajan heritage. Am I correct?
Yes, Beijing heritage. Yep.
Yes.
Yes, indeed.
Yes, yes, and I think in the first match against Canada, he had 90 plus.
Yep.
Um,
Yep. Second
and
highest score for a debutant at the World Cup behind the
right,
great.
right. And then in the
Yeah.
second match, it was it who did they play? Is it
Will-
winning? I
Yep,
think
another
36.
brilliant performance.
Yeah. So Jones, I mean, he was substitute captain for the last match yesterday against US because of the injury for Patel. But as I mentioned before,
Against
I think
India.
in a previous show, yeah, against India, Jones is a supremely confident player. And I remember, I think you had him on your show, and he plays. He's not looking at names. He's not looking at names. He's not looking at reputation. He just looks at the ball, plays the ball at his merit, and if it's to be hit, he hits. So, I mean, the US, along with Jones, I mean, they had nothing to lose when they came into this tournament for the first time, their appearance. So, I will again be happy that if they do qualify, it paints a different picture in world cricket to have the USA now among the Super Eights, and that's, as I mentioned before, is beneficial for cricket all around the world. So Jones, I'm quite impressed. He's I mean, shot maker, extraordinary shot maker. Yeah,
Yeah.
some of those slugs sweeps in the first match was spectacular. He just picks up that ball brilliantly. So he must be doing something behind the scenes to get that kind of dexterity and form.
Yeah, and let me just ask Jerome about, we spoke about Nechavalka already, but when they move to other pitches, and let's just speak in hypothetical terms now, should get to the Super Eights, they'll be playing not on those pitches in the US, those recently drop-in pitches. They'll be playing on other pitches in the Caribbean. We don't know yet where they will be playing and who they will be playing against if they get through. But how do you think they will adjust to those conditions, especially from a bowling standpoint, when they get to the Caribbean? Speaking hypothetically now, Jerome.
Well, look, as a player, once you get to a ground, you would have practice sessions. You may not be in the middle, but you can tell what is happening around the ground if you pay attention to details. And some of these things can help you to go out on the pitch to execute. Now, once you get to that venue, you would have practiced as if you're playing, because it's the same thing you're going to execute on that pitch out there. So in T20, the shorter format, you would have to assess very quickly. Wind factor, the surface, what it have to offer, probably within an over, right? If it do cause for the subtle variations, then that would have to come into play as quickly as possible. So, I mean, with T20, you have little or no time to catch yourself. So you have to be fast thinkers. You have to be on your feet. And with the ball in hand, you can have like 2-3 balls to assess a wicket, whether the bounce is going to be there, whether it's swinging, or you'd have to bring in cutters and whatever you have to use. So it's about a player who is confident and know that, look, there are 24 balls to be bowled, and it is one at a time. And you have to appreciate at that. So once you start appreciating at that ball, then look, you would try to bowl that after that after that. You have to be proactive. as a bowler, you cannot be reactive. You have to be proactive. You have to think like a batter when you're bowling.
Yeah.
In these format of the game where you have little or no time to catch yourself, because players gonna look to dominate you. They're gonna come after you. So you as a bowler, you have to go after the batsman. Let them know that you're there. But you have to be smart about it, and I think they can. But once you come, you adapt. You check the conditions, and you can adapt to it. You can adjust to it. Then it will dare to show. I mean, the pitch will tell you what length you can bowl, and you have to have that go-to ball. You have to back yourself as a bowler to execute on a given day. The bowler, the captain have to work together. Whatever field placement they want, all right, let's go with the bowler. If it's not happening, then all right, let's go with our plan. But the bowler is the man behind the ball. You have to give him the backings that boosts confidence. And once the bowler is executing, you're on par. You're on point. So I can tell you, regardless of what the surface is or what it's doing, it comes back to your execution. You have to pay attention to
some
that.
good execution from them so far in the tournament, these bowlers. I must ask Lenny about expectation. When we look at the US team, we can argue that the novelty factor was there, and a lot of teams wouldn't have seen them play. They brought some new players into the team, a lot of videos and all of that, and that's there. But after these 4 games, if they should get into the Super 8, then that novelty factor, I don't know if it will be there as much, because yes, they are different. It will be different conditions, but not having that novelty factor anymore, and the same level of expectation will be on the team to play in that same vein that they started with. How well do you think they will live up to that? I've heard you mention the confidence of the team, and we spoke to Aaron Jones here, as you said, and he was really confident, and I was saying that this confidence from Aaron Jones, to me, is not just Aaron Jones' confidence, it's the confidence of the team that's oozing through him because they believe in what they're doing. How will they manage that sort of expectation, not having that novelty factor?
I think the novelty factor is not really a big deal for international cricket players in terms of the US. They have, most of these guys have been playing the cricket all around the world, in the Caribbean, in the US, in the subcontinent areas as well, and I think they're fully experienced. You look at Aaron Jones, you look at Stephen Taylor, the confidence that they have in this US team and what they have brought to the World Cup, and the experience. I don't think that would be an issue for them to go out and establish themselves and showcase the talent and the class that they have. And they have a lot of talent and a lot of great players that can play anywhere around the world. And I think it shouldn't be a big factor. They have enough experience, enough composure, the confidence. They have everything it takes to go out in a different part of the world and perform good basic cricket. That's all it takes. Basic cricket, and they have what it takes in the camp.
All right. Let's see how they manage that expectation starting tomorrow against Ireland. A big game. A big game. A win will take them.
Not to cut you, but when you mentioned Fort Lauderdale and the Central Bar Regional Park, a lot of these players, they are playing all the tournaments. They are playing the MAC tournaments. They are playing the US Open. They are playing in, Stephen Player plays cricket here in South Florida. So they're used to these conditions, and they're used to these sorts of parts of the world, and they will come out and deliver. I don't think that's a factor for them. They're just going to come out and display what they have to display, and the confidence behind them, they would demonstrate that.
Yeah, and I can see your confidence in them. Yes, Reza.
Yeah, just I'm about to leave. I mean, I have to leave now, but I just want to, with your permission, acknowledge the outstanding contribution of Mr. Jerome Taylor to West Indian cricket. 46 matches, 130 wickets, ODIs, 90 ODIs, and 128 wickets. Well done, Mr. Jerome Taylor. And thank you for sharing the platform.
Thanks for the contribution, man. I wish I was watching you still in this World Cup squad.
All right.
Well, that's it.
All right, good.
All right. Thanks, Reza.
All right.
Yep. And we're just eager to see how they will play against Ireland tomorrow. And a win would set them up with so much more confidence going into the Super 8. Even if, because we might have weather, might play it fast, and they'll get into the Super 8. But you'd want to get into the Super 8 on the back of a win, because you don't want to go in on the back of losing one game and then the other game rained out. We're seeing New Zealand, and the biggest problem with New Zealand is because they came into the tournament a bit rusty. You don't want that. You don't want anything to break your momentum. So I know they would want to go into the Super 8. You want to get a win to get into the Super 8 with that confidence, with that momentum. So let's see what will happen tomorrow.
What I can say about getting to the Super 8 is get there. After you get there, it can be your luck. However you get there, it could be the lucky way of getting there. Once you get there, that could be the turning point. So I think Team USA will be looking forward to get there. However it costs, get there. When I look back at Corey Anderson, who I've not seen much of, who is a big player. I've played against him, I've played with him over the years, so I know what he can do as well. Have not seen enough of him in this World Cup thus far, but hopefully he's one of the players who can come to the party for the US. Stephen Taylor, who is a namesake of mine, I think he's someone who have a lot more to offer to the US team as well, who I think can do a great deal for the US. So I'll be back in the US team.
Yep. All right. Here we have it. Get there is the phrase we will close our segment with. Thanks for joining us, Jerome Taylor, with all your insight. Lenny, thanks for joining us all on US cricket. We had Reds Perriera, and we had Reza Abazali earlier. They left us a little bit earlier. Thanks for joining us, viewers, and we will see you again tomorrow morning, where we'll have that live studio broadcast of the US-Ireland match here on BIFF Cricket. We start with the pre-game show at 10 a.m. Eastern. So make sure you join in. Stay tuned. And I must say before we go, if you have not yet subscribed, please like, share, and subscribe to the channel. And also turn on your notification to get all the notification when we go live. So we'll see you again. Please turn on your notification. You'll know when we're coming on for the next segment. And join us tomorrow at 10. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
All right.